Hey guys, this is Tim with Little Crow Gunworks. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are launching a product. It's a new product for us that's very similar to a couple existing products that we have. They are, it's a kit to convert a death grip product into a BOG death grip product into a ball mount. So our first product was for the original death grip tripod, and that has been incredibly popular, and with it we get folks calling us with ideas of other products that we could come up with. And one fella called, and he shoots high-end pellet rifles, and he said that this BOG 360 or Death Grip 360 chair is very popular in those circles. And I can see how this could also be popular for doing remote shooting, like out in the field. If you're able to get to a spot with a vehicle and you're shooting out on public land or something and there's no bench available and you don't want to get down prone, I could see how this could certainly be useful. So we got one and investigated it and figured out what we need to do to make a product out of it. So that's what we're doing. So this is basically a disassembly and assembly video for that product to convert this clamp mechanism into a ball mount, so you have the ability to correct for angle. Because obviously if you set this chair up out in the field, you're not on a concrete slab, so the ground's not going to be level. So because this doesn't have the ability to correct for angle from the factory, it's always going to be cockeyed unless you figure out a way to put a ball mount on this. So that's what we did. So we're going to go into disassembly and assembly of the new product. It's very similar to the other two products we offer. And as far as disassembly, it's actually pretty easy. It's very similar to the regular death grip tripod. So we'll go into that. So it starts with, I'll probably change the camera angle here and zoom in a little more just so you can see the detail a little bit better before I start taking it apart. Okay, so you may only be able to quasi see me, but the important part is being able to see this. So I did increase the brightness a little bit so you can see the detail. So on the bottom here, there is a little plug, like a little rubber plug that you can just peel off with a fingernail. And all that does is it plugs the head of the cap screw that's on the bottom. So all these parts you'll want to set aside in case you have to put this thing back together to how it came from the factory for any reason. So once you get that plug out of there, you need a 3/16 Allen key to get this bolt loose, and it's not crazy tight or anything, so you just have to hold the head and crack that loose, spin that out, and then this has a lot of plastic pieces and a bearing tray and different things in here. So once the threads let go, there's 4 or 5 different parts here in my hand that will all go crashing all over the floor if you're not careful. So set that aside, and then once that's out, you basically have the stamped steel bearing race on the bottom here, and you're going to have to get that out. But now that the bolt is out, this top part just lifts right out, and there's a bearing, a roller bearing right here on the bottom that will usually come with this when you take it out, just due to suction, because there is grease on it. So you'll want to set that aside, and I recommend putting the clamp down like this with the shaft pointed up toward the ceiling so that doesn't again fall off and end up lost on the floor. Then what you're left with here are the 2 stamped bearing races. These are steel bearing races, and these need to come out. But you can't just pull them out, they're pressed in there. So what you need is like a flathead screwdriver, or I guess a piece of wood would work as well. Just something that you can get up underneath the edge of this bearing race and tap from the bottom to apply force to try to slowly get it out of there. And they're not in there crazy tight, but again, you're not going to be able to pull it out by hand. So you will have to tap on it a little bit. So what you'll notice is that when you tap on it from one side, it'll get kind of cocked in there, and you'll have to tap it from the other side and slowly work it out, and then at some point it'll pop out. And how hard it is going to be to get out, I guess I don't have control over. I only have a sample size of 1. Some may come right out, some you may have to tap out. So unfortunately that's out of our control because this is a product that BOG manufactures. We don't. So once you have the top out, then there's this tension knob on the side. You'll want to loosen that up so that's not applying pressure to anything on the internals. And then there's this little brass sleeve in there, and that's what applies pressure to keep this shaft from turning. So when you spin this knob in, it applies pressure to this shaft. That shaft squeezes on the shaft of the head mechanism, and then it stops it from turning. So you can loosen this knob up. I think this thing comes all the way out if you wanted to just take it out and put it with the rest of the parts, because you're not going to need it anymore with our retrofit. This part will be obsolete. So yeah, so that does just come right out. So this brass ring and that threaded screw you can just, or threaded knob, you can just set aside. So now we just have the cast with nothing in it. This old boss from where the knob threaded in, that's going to stay because that's welded on. But then we still have this bearing race, the stamped steel bearing race on the bottom. And that you can take out the same way. You can either use a dowel or something and go from the inside or on the outer edge, like I did the top one. And that same thing, you just have to kind of tap at it a little bit until it lets go. And again, how much force you're going to need, I can't tell you. They're going to be case by case. There we go. Okay. So that came out. All right, now we just have the stamped, or not stamped, but the cast aluminum here, which is what we want. We don't want any steel parts. This should be nice and smooth on the inside, and then it's ready to install our retrofit. So once we're to this point, we can dive into our kit, and this is how it will come in just a simple round box. And when you open it up, we have our ball mount in there. Let's pull it out of the bag and set there. And then we have our proprietary ARCA plate that will mount up to the bottom of the BOG clamp head, allowing you to still use it. And that uses the factory bolts. You don't need any special bolts to attach that. Then we have, get some of this junk out of the way. Then we have our proprietary center column and bolt. This is a 2 1/4 inch serrated flanged bolt with a 9/16 head on it, and then our center column or sleeve. And both of these parts now are hard coat anodized in black. So the way we install this is put the bolt in through the bottom. There's a little rim here that keeps it from sliding up into the cast. Obviously that needs to be on the bottom, and the narrower part goes up through the cast. And then you can orient your ball mount on here whichever way works for you. You may have to play with it just to figure out which way you want it. So how you bolt this on here isn't super critical, as long as before you tighten it up, so I just have it finger tight now, before you tighten it up, you loosen this tension knob on the side here and get this thing oriented the way you want it, and then you can lock that down and then tighten your bolt. So like I mentioned, you will need a 9/16 socket to tighten that down. And you don't have to get carried away. There's no torque spec we recommend for this. It's a 3/8 bolt, so it can take quite a bit of force, but you don't have to get carried away. Just snug so you know that it's not gonna let loose on you. And then if you're a right-handed shooter, you would want it so that this paddle style retaining knob, which is spring loaded and you can turn it whichever way you like it, If you're right-handed, you will want this on the left side closest to you. So when you're holding your rifle, you're able to loosen this tension knob, and now you can pivot this head whichever way you want for it to take your shot. You know, you can get it at whatever angle you need, and then tighten this down, take your shot, and then loosen it and find your next target and take your shot. So, and then on the top of our ball mount, we include one quick release ARCA plate that you can attach to, say, like a spotting scope or a digital camera or a rangefinder, whatever you have that has a 1/4-20 thread on the bottom. So that's included, but we don't need it to attach the death grip clamp. That's just for ancillary products. So now you have an exposed ARCA surface here, or ARCA clamp here, that you can use if your rifle has an ARCA plate on the bottom. You can just slide that in there, clamp it tight, and just directly mount the rifle to this and use it that way and be able to correct for angle and all that. Or if you don't have an ARCA plate on your rifle and you want to still use the death grip saddle clamp, is what these things are called, then you can take these parts off and then attach our proprietary ARCA plate and still retain function of this. So we'll go into that. So it's very simple. There's just 4 3/16 cap head screws on the bottom here that you have to loosen up and reuse these bolts to attach our ARCA plate. So we'll spin those free, and then it's just a simple matter of attaching our ARCA plate, and you're in business. Yeah, it's funny, we came out with the original adapter kit for the BOG DEATHGRIP tripod, and man, the people that are coming out of the woodwork calling us saying, you know, you should make something for this and you should make something for that. It's actually kind of funny, but it's good that people want to be involved, and they, you know, they have ideas for how to make products better, and usually it's for their own benefit, but they're going to end up helping other people in the long run. So it's great. It's really a pleasure to see the shooting community work together and try to help out their fellow outdoors people. So now that those are loose, this one's not coming out. There we go. Now we can repurpose those 4 bolts. So keep track of those. Then you have just your bare machined casting on the bottom of the saddle clamp, and those holes line up with our proprietary plate. So you want to put that on with the recesses pointed up, so that way the heads of these cap screws fall in there nicely. So we'll just get those started, drop them in, and then we'll line them up and spin that on with our Allen key here. And it's really just that simple. So once you attach our plate, then this saddle clamp will now interface with our ball mount, and you're off and running. Snug these down. Again, same thing. If you want to put some blue Loctite on these screws, you can. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary, but a lot of people are in the better safe than sorry camp, so you can certainly do that. All right, and once you snug those down, which way you have this clamp on top here oriented doesn't really matter, so you can turn it this way if you want or whatever. Just, you'll have to loosen it up to get your saddle clamp in here, and that just slides right in. You can tighten down that tension knob, and you're done. And it's just that simple. Now that we have this saddle clamp installed, it's ready to go. So now you can go out in the field and use it and correct for angle and account for the fact that the ground's not level, and be able to level your crosshairs before you take your shot. So if you have any questions about the installation of this video or the product in general, feel free to reach out. You can call us. We're here Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Or you can leave a question down in the comments. I try to keep an eye on that as best I can. But if you have any questions, reach out. By the time you see this video, the product will be live on our website. Thanks for checking it out. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.